So today while I was out running errands, I ended up going on a massive book haul, and since I love talking about books, I thought I would share. I started at my local library where I snatched up a bunch of titles that I cannot wait to usher in the new year with. Then I headed over to the Barnes & Noble where I got to peruse the wall of classics, do a little bit of proper browsing, pick up some essential Russian literature, and then I grabbed a couple of titles that I just could not leave the store without. Now that I'm home and all settled in for the evening, let's get into this stack. Starting with the library finds, we have The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. The cover's really shiny, so I'm having trouble reading her name. All I know about this book, and all I need to know, is that this is a vampire story, and it comes highly recommended. Don't want to say too much about it because I do plan to do a video where I'm going to talk about all of my vampire reads. Another book that I can't talk too much about is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. I'm really excited to read this book, not just because of what this is about, but because it's a follow-up to Dowry of Blood, which was an explosive debut novel that got a ton of great reviews, also a vampire story. Next, we have The Poet and the Vampire. This details the fateful summer where Lord Byron invited several of his literary friends, including John Polidori, Percy and Mary Shelley, and Claire Clairmont, to a retreat in Geneva where he decided to hold a contest to see who could come up with the best horror story. It was because of this contest that two of the most important pieces of fiction were written and put out into the world. John Polidori's The Vampire, and of course, Mary Shelley's monster masterpiece, Frankenstein. Staying on this theme, we have Mary and the Birth of Frankenstein, about the same summer and the same people through the eyes of young Mary Shelley. I adore Frankenstein. Mary Shelley was an absolute genius, and any story that has anything to do with recounting the events of her fascinating life is something that's going to interest me. Moving on to Barnes & Noble. Fathers and Sons by Ivan Targanov. This book is all about family and generational differences and how the world changes so fast and so drastically that sometimes our values have a hard time keeping up. I also appreciate that it's really short. Unlike this next title, which is Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. I have to say what really attracted me to this edition was this really gorgeous blue cover. I also really appreciate Vintage Classics' noble efforts to not make this seem like the thickest book ever published and one that you can actually hold in one hand. Still can't snap it shut though. Next, we have The Ghosts of Mary Hall by Heather Davey. All I needed to know was that this is a gothic horror story. I love ghost stories that take place around Christmas. In fact, one of my most prized possessions is this collection of gothic short stories. I haven't read a single review, no idea what people think about it, but I'm gonna give it a try. And last, but based on what I've heard, certainly not least, is The Raven Scholar. From everything I've heard about this is an absolute must read, even for people who either don't love fantasy or just haven't read it in a while. I have no idea if it is a standalone or there are meant to be sequels, but I'm really excited. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a huge list of books to read. Thank you so much for joining me on what is likely to be my last book haul of 2025. I hope you are all having a lovely holiday, and I'll see you next time.